Again, thank you all for joining us. And our next section is actually a feature of our Northern Colorado legislators. So we're going to be having them join us all Brady Bunch style on the screen. And we will be giving them each an opportunity to share a few comments today. So they'll each have about 2 minutes to share some thoughts. But joining us today include our House Minority Leader, Hugh McKean of House District 51, Representative Andrew Boesenecker of House District 53, Representative Cathy Kipp of House District 52, Representative Mike Lynch of House District 49, and we also then have Senator Rob Woodward from Senate District 15, Representative Tonya Beber of House District 48, and Senator Barb Kirkmeyer of District 23. And sorry, I'm just looking around at my screen. We also have Senator Joann Ginal from District 14 joining us. So as I noted, we would love to provide each of you with about 2 minutes to share your thoughts and your insights today. We know that you're all working feverishly to get ready for the session and to represent Northern Colorado well. So let's kick it off with State House Minority Leader Hugh McKean. Again, he represents House District 51, which is a showcase of Loveland and Larimer County. Go ahead, Hugh.
And thank you so much. And thank you for providing that tribute to Carl. I choked up as you were choking up. That was just one of the biggest shocks that I've had, and I will miss him a lot. And for somebody who did so much for us, so thank you for that. Thank you all for being here, and Sandra, thank you for putting this on. I think it's a really, really good thing to hear from all these folks. I don't mind saying I'll disagree with Ed and Joey. I think that this is going to be a remarkable election year. I think that the way the people of Colorado feel, we're going to see a lot more interest in how we do not regulate the people of this state, but much more how we help families succeed. And that's kind of what I've heard this morning. Is there's been so much of a discussion about what rulemakings are going on and are doing, and how much power has been given to our energy office, and how much power has been given to the AQCC, and all of these different folks who realm one ring removed from the voters and the people of the state. And that's got me very concerned, and it always has, but even more so lately. So genuinely, what we're looking at is how can we help the people of Colorado? How can we make sure that Colorado is more affordable? How can we make sure that we increase public safety in a year when we are seeing a crime wave we've never seen before? When we see the gang violence in Aurora, when we see homicides in Denver up by 51%, aggravated assaults are up, double digits across the board. And so just genuine concern about that. But really, I think where I come down is something that all of our fellow legislators have heard us talk about. And that is that in sort of the aftermath of one of the worst years ever, what we're really finding is that this renewed focus on our kids and on parental involvement on where their kids are for getting a good education. And it's not just the K through 12 system. It's where are we going with technical education? Where are we going with a workforce that we now see huge gaps in? And of course, part of that's COVID. Part of it is a timing issue with people retiring out at certain points. But really, where are we going to get those skilled people? And I think that's where we come to work. That's January 12th. Those are the things that we're thinking about that are on our minds of, what do we do to help families succeed? And we know families are sitting there paying the bills and running out of money before they run out of bills. And I've been there. I've sat at my parents' kitchen table in the 1970s, realizing that we weren't going to be able to pay all the bills on that table, and flipping them over and starting again the next month. That is no place to be. And great thing is that Republicans have the answers that we're looking for. And so I think it's going to be a very interesting year. I think we're going to get a lot done, but I also think that it's going to be a better year for conversations about where the state's going. And certainly I'll promise that our members and myself, we're going to have a lot of conversations about where we're going and the practicality of how we get there. So I'm always here for questions, and I see the big stop sign. So thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Representative McKean. Well, we really appreciate that. We're now going to jump over to Representative Kipp, again from House District 52. Her area of representation is Fort Collins and Larimer County. Welcome, Representative Kipp.
Thank you. And thank you for having us here today. And just as a quick side note, right now, Representative Boesenecker and I are split along east-west Fort Collins, and under the new redistricting maps, we will be sort of north-south Fort Collins. So I am the south end of that. And I can't tell you what street because it sort of, winds its way. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been working on in the legislature generally over the interim, which is between our sessions. So we've had a couple of major task forces going on affordable housing and behavioral health. And I know you guys want to know about economy, but I think affordable housing and behavioral health are all related to how we do as an economy up here in Northern Colorado. In addition to that, they also created a task force on economic development. And, that goes to the workforce and training piece that Minority Leader McKean mentioned. And so, I've got one bill in that realm related to education, making sure we have enough teachers, because, the teacher shortage we had was bad before the pandemic. And now since the pandemic, it's worse. A lot of people are really getting burned out because they've gone through a lot in the last 20, 21 months now. So that's one aspect of it. I serve on the early childhood task force, and we are working childhood, which is related. We're talking about, how are we going to implement the new preschool program? How are we going to implement the new Office of Early Childhood? How are we going to get more childcare providers in our state who are able to provide the care that's needed? But I think the thing that was probably of most interest to you that I was working on this interim has to do with the Sales and Tax Use Simplification Task Force, which I serve on. And that task force, actually, Senator Woodward was on that also. And we are putting some bills forward that if you are in retail at all, I'm sure you understand how incredibly and unfortunately complex our system is. And so we're working to resolve that. So I see the big red sign and I will stop as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kipp. We're now going to jump over to the other side of I-25 and welcome to the screen Representative Mary Young, District 50 in Weld County.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here this morning. I represent the East Side and Central Greeley and Evans and Garden City. And fortunately, redistricting really didn't have an impact on my district. I just am a little bit more compact. It is good to talk about economic issues. And as the previous speakers have alluded to, it is difficult not to look at some of the issues around behavioral health when you're talking about economic recovery, because what we have learned is that people have been significantly impacted by both substance use disorders and mental health issues during this pandemic. And in many work sectors, we're seeing people not returning to work because of some of these issues. And so I'm happy to continue my work around behavioral health. I'm doing a bill about the second part of the Behavioral Health Administration, which is trying to allow people to access the behavioral health supports they need. Representative Kipp talked about interim task force, and I've been participating in one that many of you might be interested in with the minority leader, and that's the Economic Recovery and Relief Task Force, where we're looking to distribute $750 million of ARPA funds. One of the top issues that we addressed early on was the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund, which many of you as business owners have been very concerned about. And at first we thought we would look at distributing ARPA funds through this task force. But what we're looking at now is it is now part of the governor's budget. And so we will be, what these funds are looking at is really making sure we're continuing economic relief to small businesses, not-for-profits that have been impacted by the pandemic and aren't recovering yet. So we have a rubric that is deciding how this money will get distributed, its relevance to affected group. And I see the stop sign, but I do want to say, if you are interested in legislation around distributing these funds, please reach out to me. I'm willing to support you and work with you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kipp. Let's move up to the northest part of Northern Colorado, and we'll bring onto the screen Representative Lynch. He represents District 49, which includes Wellington and North Larimer and Weld counties. Welcome, Representative.
Sitting in the parking lot of a doctor's appointment, so I'm getting ready to run in here real quick. Hey, I want to also echo the comments about Carl. He was the go-to guy about anything transportation, and he's gonna really be missed. So if you guys want to send me somebody else that knows a lot about it, that would be awesome. I never met the number 2. So anyway, but thanks so much for having me on here this morning. Yeah, we're getting ramped up and ready to go. Some of the stuff I'm working on. So those of you that don't know, I'm on the business and the judiciary committees. So on the business side, I've got a part of a bipartisan bill that's working on advanced industries tax credit. We're going to dig deep into that and figure out what we can do to help promote some industry here in the state. That's a fun one. And then on the judiciary side, working on really kind of cleaning up some issues around fentanyl, but a bunch of good stuff coming down the pike this year. Looking forward to getting back at it, and as always, being in touch with folks on the ground. It seems like there's been a kind of a surge of activity from constituents that I haven't seen before. Where they're coming out of their shell and letting us know some things that we can do to help along the way. So, yeah, thanks so much for including me on this. Sorry to be brief, but I've got to go get poked and prodded.
We appreciate it, Representative. Thank you for joining us. We'll jump over to our other car traveler today, and that's Representative Van Beber. She represents District 48, which is in Weld County. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having us here today. And I'm Representative Tonya Van Beber, and Central and Northern Weld County. And thanks, Representative Lynch, for all that information about your the rest of your morning. So we all are very busy, of course, in the House and the Senate with all of the things that Representative McKean, Minority Leader McKean, already spoke of. The surge of constituent interaction that we're seeing up here in Weld County, all the way to tax credit bills that are coming out of the Office of Early Childhood Interim Committee. And that's something that I'm sure Senator Kirkmeyer can speak a little bit more to as I am getting ready to prepare to travel through the tunnel here on I-70. I am on the Energy and Environment Committee, as well as the Health and Insurance Committee during the session, and out of session on the Behavioral Health Administration Task Force, as well as the Office of Early Childhood Task Force and the Commission for Higher Education. So lots of discussions about finance, but when it comes to Northern Colorado economy and transportation, it was good to hear from Director Liu about what was going to happen next with Northern Colorado and our highways, because we drive on those roads every day and know that our constituency is waiting with bated breath to see this finished so that they can get to work as expediently as possible. Lots of things going on when it comes to the economy here in Colorado, and really the concern of how much regulation and overreach has prevented folks from being able to do what they need to do to reach their full potential to help Colorado be our best. And so those will be some of the things that you'll see coming out of the caucus this year. And I look forward to helping my fellow legislators in session. And sorry to be brief as well, but we've got to head on down the highway. So.
Outstanding. Thank you again for joining us, Representative. We appreciate it. We're going to wrap up our House side of Northern Colorado with our newest member of the Northern Colorado delegation, and that's Representative Andrew Boesenecker from District 53, representing Fort Collins and Larimer County.
Well, thank you, Ann, and certainly good to be with you this morning. Thanks for everyone for attending. Certainly want to just give a shout out to the Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance, all the chambers of commerce and the sponsors that made the event possible. So thank you. Just a quick update from me. I serve in the House in House District 53. That's the west half of Fort Collins, but as Cathy mentioned, will soon be the north-ish half of Fort Collins. I serve on the Transportation and Local Government Committee, as well as the Agriculture, Livestock, and Water Committee. Those are great committees and really point to what I wanted to highlight as well, which is that 94% of the bills that came out of the state legislature last session were bipartisan. And I think those committees that I serve on really highlight that good work that happens around policy. And I think what the people of Colorado expect when it comes to their elected officials. And that's that we work hard on policy that makes sense for our state. So I just wanted to highlight that because partisanship gets the headlines, but really the policy work is where the true work is at. And I'm pleased to participate in that alongside my colleagues on this call. Over the interim, I've had the pleasure of connecting with a lot of businesses and community leaders, including a tour of rural schools. I've taken a tour of agriculture operations here in Northern Colorado, specifically in Larimer County. And then we've heard from a lot of business leaders, as has been mentioned on this call, around challenges around workforce development and employee retention and hiring. Those remain concerns and areas of opportunity for the state legislature. I think staffing shortages also merit some mention here as well, not only in terms of our business communities, but also in terms of how those shortages are impacting things like our public schools and universities and places where we just need folks in place to make sure that we can keep doing the things we want to do. And that is simply to keep businesses open and keep our kids in school learning. So those things have been really insightful and I think helpful as we work towards the priorities that we share, which are challenges around air quality, affordable housing, strains on our healthcare systems regionally, and then transportation issues as well. I've had the pleasure of connecting with several motor carriers and better understanding the challenges there. So I'll wrap with that and just say that, I'm always happy to listen and learn and connect, especially if your business finds itself in the new House District 53. You reach out anytime. I'm always happy to listen to what's going on and certainly would be more than welcome to take a tour and just pop in and say hello if you think it'd be helpful. So thanks for your time and thanks, Ann, for coordinating.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And a special shout out to all of our Northern Colorado representatives that serve in the State House. We're now going to switch over to the other side of the system and go to our senators. And we'll kick off with Senator Rob Woodward. Senator Woodward represents District 15, and the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks so much for having me today. Again, my name is Rob Woodward. I represent Senate District 15, which historically has been rural Larimer County, but now it includes rural Boulder County as well. This morning, I'm not going to be politically correct. I may offend some of the people who are on this call, but I prefer to tell the truth. Colorado business is under attack. Federal, state, and local elected officials have passed onerous, confusing regulations. Unelected boards of health and public health officials have used their tyrannical power to create rules that have already crushed many small businesses. Now small businesses are faced with labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and more. This morning, we heard from the governor's office that they are about to make things even tougher. To make matters worse, costs are increasing significantly faster than businesses can pass on to their customers. Make no mistake, the COVID-19 virus was the catalyst for this pain, but policies and decisions by governments have made the crisis many times worse. The legislature over the last couple of years has passed rules that have driven up the cost of employment. New requirements for hiring, promotions, mandated sick pay, mandated time off, and the list goes on. It's no wonder that businesses are shifting to robots and trying to keep fewer employees on staff. Health insurance premiums are expected to go up 30% in 2022. Legislative insurance mandates raise those costs. Simultaneously, the smartest, most tenured staff are leaving hospitals because of mandates or burnout. Now hospitals are having staff shortages and poor care. Colorado burned up $1 billion that we'd saved up in the unemployment trust fund, and then they borrowed another $1 billion from the feds. I just got my notice that next year I'll be paying 3 times as much for unemployment. Federal taxes are about to go up. Property taxes are about to skyrocket because of inflation. I guess the question I have, and I think the question on most of the folks' minds who are on this call is why would anybody do business in the state of Colorado? Consumers see the cost difference, and they're switching to Amazon because they can import products cheaper from out of state or from China. Crime is going up fast. Cost of living is increasing faster than most of us can reach. Our school system is failing our kids, as evidenced by the data that shows our kids cannot read and write at almost any grade level. Smart businesses will migrate to safe, affordable, business-friendly states. I pray that the NCLA will continue to push back. One bill I hope you will aggressively support is my proposal to take our one-time federal money to restore the unemployment trust fund. If we don't, I promise that money will get wasted on new programs, and small businesses will be left to foot the bill with a giant tax on their employees. Sorry to be such a downer, but I thought I'd bring a little truth to this morning's conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate your comments. Let's jump over to the Weld County side of the line and invite Senator Kirkmeyer to join us. She represents District 23.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here today. I too just want to say thank you for the tribute for Carl Maxey. Having been the chair of the North I-25 Coalition for 8 years, worked hand in hand with Carl, and he was just a great guy all the way around. So thank you for that tribute. And I'm going to kind of pick up where Rob left off, because I didn't hear all the comments this morning because I was speaking at another engagement. But I did hear some of the transportation comments, and I heard basically praise for Senate Bill 260. I just want to remind you all that Senate Bill 260 basically only has about $20 million in the first year going to transportation projects. We all know that that doesn't really fund even an interchange on I-25, much less anything else going through for the state or of that 10-year plan. So all it did was increase our taxes through a fee system and basically put a lot of money into enterprises that, again, were basically against the voters' will as well. So I also heard that now with the new rules and regulations, we're going to be doing a better job at facing issues at the beginning of project development. I'm just going to remind you all that there are environmental assessments done, environment investment strategies, major investment studies, NEPA policies, NEPA studies that are all done, and they've all been done on I-25 ad nauseum. So all that happened at the beginning of this I-25 project. So it's going to be incumbent on NCLA to keep pushing and pushing to ensure that those federal funds that are coming to us for infrastructure are used on I-25. And we can't let that project die or let it be skinnied up or put on a diet, as they've been talking about down at the Department of Transportation. It's important that we get our project completed for not just for Northern Colorado, not just for the state of Colorado, but quite frankly for this nation, because it is a national defense corridor. It is an economic corridor. It is a corridor of major significance for the United States. Along the lines kind of where Rob was talking about, he's right. NCLA, man, we need you to keep pushing back. I serve on the education committee, and it's very clear that even with all the flood of money, and I do mean flood of money that's been going into education, COVID and because of other reasons, people didn't want to do testing, didn't want to do other things. Now we have 8th graders. 50% of our 8th graders are not at an 8th grade math level. Over 50% of our kids at 3rd grade are not reading at 3rd grade. And man, if our kids aren't reading at 3rd grade, what's going to happen in the future? I mean, this is our future workforce. We need to really buckle down and get on it. You know, if there was a silver lining with COVID, it's this. Parents now know what is either happening or not happening in the school system and in the classroom, because they had to be engaged for the last 18 months and really be following, basically being their kids' teachers. So now they know. So do you. And we have been failing. There's been a huge COVID slide. It's not getting better at this point. Haven't heard any suggestions on how it's going to get better. With regard to the early childhood and school readiness interim committee that I'm on, we got our State Department we've got our state administration and our governor who's creating a whole new department. And while many of us voted for that new department, talking about early childhood, the planning for it, basically the only way we got any information on is because I pushed and pushed to make sure that we had a meeting about the transition and the creation of that department. They still don't have any of the facts. They're still at a 50,000 point view, and they're still not talking about how they're going to actually integrate that and make sure that it works with our human services programs and with our school system. That's of great concern to us. The mission of the early childhood department is for 0 up to 5 age, children of that age, which, yes, childcare is important, as we all know, especially for folks that are in the work environment. And that's extremely important. But what happens to those kids at 5 years of age up to 18, that's also just as important. So I'm watching that pretty closely on sitting on that committee and also sitting on the education committee. But there's a lot of work to do. And, I can just tell you from myself as a Republican state senator, and I'm going to say this, I enjoy working across the aisle with Senator Ginal. She's great to work with. We have great conversations. But I'm just saying, as a Republican state senator, we need NCLA at the table pushing and keeping us all informed of what's going on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And a perfect segue into our final legislator joining us today, and that is Senator Joann Ginal. She represents District 14 in Larimer County. Senator.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Sandra, and everyone who's put this together. Actually, it's really nice to see all the representatives and the senators, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, here today. I think it's really important that we express our feelings, Senator Woodward, and appreciate that. And I'm listening and taking all that in. And thank you. Thank you all for your comments. There are several bills that I'm bringing forward. One comes out of the Wildfire Interim Committee, which helps our county, Northern Colorado. It's for, let's see, let me get this right. It's for the compensation for seasonal and volunteer firefighters. And Rep. Lynch was a part of the Wildfire Interim Committee, and I guess about 8 other folks, legislators were as well. Many bills have come out of that, and hopefully we will help people struggling from the Cameron Peak fire and all the other fires from the past, and try to make them whole as much as we possibly can. We have done a good job with the Interim Committee for Wildfires, especially here in Northern Colorado. Another bill that I'm working on is a bill that has come to my attention, and it should come to your attention. It's about catalytic converter theft, and it affects businesses. It affects auto dealers. It affects people who have small businesses, scrap metal businesses, a lot of folks, and it affects consumers because some of these people who are having their catalytic converters stolen. By the way, Colorado has one of the highest rates of catalytic converter thefts. And if you have your catalytic converter stolen, which is a very quick process, it used to cost about $200 to get replaced, and it didn't happen very often at all. Now it's happening on a daily basis. Sometimes 100, 200 times a day. And to buy a new one, or to buy one for your car, used one even, is about $2,000 to $5,000 because of the precious metals that are in the catalytic converters. So I'm trying to help consumers and help businesses, small as well as the car dealerships. And there's a lot of people involved in this to help to make better laws around the catalytic converter theft issue. So that is one thing. Another thing I am going to be working on, along with Senator Kirkmeyer, is a bill called Clarifying the Responsibilities of Oil and Gas Operators related to property valuations. And this basically clarifies oil and gas fractional interest owners, that they're not subject to separate valuation notices by the assessor. So it helps oil and gas operations. It helps the county assessors basically to streamline and it saves money all around for Northern Colorado as well as the rest of the state. Lastly, I am bringing forward a bill to help with our mental health professionals. It's a compact so that other health professionals who have a license in another state can come to the state of Colorado without having to take a test or get another license because of the needs that we have. A lot of you have mentioned the mental health needs. So we need to make it as easy as possible to get more behavioral health, mental health providers to the state. And I don't see a stop sign, and I can't believe it unless I've gone over. But I will end on that. Thank you very much, because I think this is a really important discussion to have with all of us here. So thanks to Ann, thanks to Sandra for putting this on.
Thank you, Senator. We certainly appreciate your comments, and a shout out to all of our legislators that were able to join us today. Hugh is trying to show something. I can't quite read it, but
it was a stop sign. It was just a stop sign. That's all. I just want to make sure she had it.
And I think that Kevin Priola is on here. So
yep, I'm actually throwing it over to Sandra to share a few comments and to wrap up our conversation here with legislators. Again, thank you all for your service. Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance certainly looks forward to working with you over the next session to really impact and be a positive force when it comes to business issues. So let me turn it over to Sandra to wrap us up.
Great. Thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate it. And so thank you so much to our Northern Colorado delegation. I've said it before and I'll say it again, we in this region are so fortunate to have great leaders like yourselves representing our interests. There's a diversity of thought at this table, but that is what makes us stronger as a region and our ability to work collectively with you. We're, again, very, very grateful for the open door, your engagement, full engagement with us on critical issues facing our region and the state. And I appreciate the frankness and the candor with which you bring to the table and but also, again, your incredible receptivity to the dialogue and an openness and appreciation. So with that, I want to thank you, but I also want to say hello to Senator Kevin Priola. Senator Kevin Priola presently represents Adams County, and with redistricting, come 2022, will be one of our new senators representing a portion of Weld County. And so just wanted to have him say hello, just do a quick wave, say hello. He'll be engaged. He'll be engaged with us as we move through the session, and he becomes more and more familiar with Weld County as well. So say hello again there, Senator.
Hello again.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to.
Yeah, great. We are going to shift back over to Laurel Labonde, the chair of the NCLA, and she is just a wonderful leader for the organization. And so, Laurel, take it away.
Thank you, Sandra. I am going to share a final round of PowerPoints. So let's make sure that that's up and running. Okay, great. Okay, so I am really thrilled to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about the NCLA's mission and some of our priority work that we have been doing for the last couple of years and anticipate continuing to do through 2021, 2022, and into the future. The NCLA's mission is to unite members of the Northern Colorado business community to be a strong voice on state and federal policy, regulations, and legislation that affects businesses' ability to succeed. We work together as a region to protect and build a positive business climate for all Northern Colorado businesses. Our 2022 priorities are categorized by area of focus. So you see them listed here on the screen, and I have the opportunity to delve into each of these a little bit. We start with economic development. Typically, and in the past, the NCLA has contributed to economic development in Weld and Larimer counties through the support of state economic development tools and incentives. However, as the pandemic took hold and Northern Colorado businesses looked for ways to survive and thrive if possible, the NCLA shifted our focus to the development and implementation of a coordinated two-county economic recovery plan. This plan addresses both short and long-term economic challenges. Also included in this plan is the focus on supporting employers in Northern Colorado with legislation that improves workforce training programs. The pandemic crisis, my goodness, what a long 21 months it has been. A moment here of personal privilege. I formerly served as the chair of the NCLA 5 years ago, and I remember very clearly standing up during the Regional Issue Summit and giving similar remarks to these, but we were all gathered together. It was an in-person event. There was a fantastic breakfast buffet. So, chalk all of those things up to the change that we've all experienced over the last 21 months. As the voice of business in Northern Colorado, the NCLA prioritized the safe and responsible reopening of local businesses to assure both the economic and mental well-being of our region. I am so encouraged to hear so many of our legislators touch on the importance of mental health and how we can continue to support members of our community. And that's something that the NCLA has begun to do as well. We are so proud of the work our chambers did in coordination with local governments to develop a community-driven and data-informed business certification plan. When it comes to energy development, the NCLA pledges to protect and support the growth of the traditional energy sector, while also encouraging the innovative alternative energy sector. The energy sector is a long-standing, driving economic force in this region, and frankly, for the entire state. This sector drives billions of dollars into our state, and the NCLA pledges to continue our collaboration with industry partners, including the continued engagement as the state implements both Senate Bill 181 and House Bill 1261, both passed in 2019. Agriculture. Similarly, the agriculture sector is foundational to who we are as a region, and it provides those resources to the state and the nation. We strongly support and will work to protect the agricultural sector of our economy by defending it from overly expansive policies. The NCLA looks to support policies that reflect best industry practices for the use of land, water, and environmental mitigation. Climate change. We advocate for the objective, unbiased, and transparent evaluations of technologies and strategies employed to achieve targeted greenhouse gas reductions. Critically, these strategies must be balanced with continuous access to affordable, sustainable energy for families and businesses. Transportation and fixed North I-25, goodness gracious, what a topic we have been talking about for the better part of a decade. The NCLA is immensely proud of the work Northern Colorado communities, businesses, institutions, and local governments have done to bring attention to the transportation needs of this region. Our top priority continues to be securing the funding to widen I-25 to 3 lanes each way between Highway 14 and Highway 66 by 2025. Regional roadways are increasingly important in our fast-growing region. As such, the NCLA also supports the funding and improvement to secondary roads in the 2-county region. Oh, excuse me, water resource development. How could I possibly have skipped over that? Water is critical to this region, and as such, the NCLA supports regional collaboration to retain water in Northern Colorado, protect the integrity of water law, and increase water storage. Included under this focus is the expansion of Halligan and Seaman reservoirs and the construction of the Northern Integrated Supply Project. We now have the opportunity to talk a little bit about specific legislative and regulatory challenges from 2019 and 2021. I mentioned at the outset of the summit that the policy landscape has shifted in recent years. The NCLA has been at the forefront of the shifting sands in our recent work. In 2019, we stood with the energy sector, a core industry for Northern Colorado, as they were put on their heels with the passage of Senate Bill 181, which is the regulatory framework that puts some additional regulatory guidelines on the industry. That industry responded as they always have, with resiliency and hard work that they are known for, but not after significant job loss and heartache. In 2020, with the help of our Northern Colorado senators in particular, we fended off a legislative march to pass what would have been an overly onerous Paid Family and Medical Leave Act. However, we were faced with the passage of legislation with even more problematic consequences for employers that strive to meet the guidelines of Colorado's version of the Equal Work for Equal Pay Act. Changes to this act are critical and necessary to keep Colorado from becoming an employer island. During this 2021 interim period, the NCLA led the business community in response to regulatory efforts of direct consequence to employers. With legal guidance of Chris Colclasure, from whom you heard earlier, we defeated the regulatory Employee Trip Reduction Program, or ETRIP, proposal before the Air Quality Control Commission, and we are leading the response to the proposed rules before CDOT right now that will have a great impact upon road building in Colorado. Finally, the pandemic response had dire effects on employers and the employees that found themselves unemployed for no reason but the pandemic. The state's unemployment trust fund was depleted and will need to be restored. Current refunding mechanisms would impose significant premiums, as mentioned by Senator Woodward, on all businesses across Colorado, whether they tap the trust fund or not. We are urging legislative leaders and budget writers to replenish the trust fund with available federal dollars to provide across-the-board relief that will also provide protections to employees and families. Looking ahead, we have some calls to action for all of those out in the audience today, and what you can look ahead for NCLA to address in 2022. The NCLA urges the Colorado Transportation Commission to fully pursue all available options to fund North I-25 Express Lanes project to full completion, and to direct spending of new federal funds on interstates and North I-25 projects. As for labor, in collaboration with business organization partners, the NCLA will pursue modifications to the Equal Work for Equal Pay Act that I previously mentioned. These modifications will decrease the regulatory burden that was created by the passage of the act. Additionally, the NCLA supports legislative and spending measures to draw Colorado's unemployed and underemployed workforce back to work. Finally, when it comes to broad business, the record unemployment during 2021 and 2022 was no fault of businesses across Colorado, but due to a government-imposed policies that closed businesses during the pandemic. As mentioned a moment ago, the NCLA will advocate for utilizing federal stimulus funds to restore the UI fund balance to avoid the broadly applied UI premium surcharge. This is a broad, statewide economic investment. We look forward as a board every year to setting our priorities and anticipating what could come out of the Colorado legislature and regulatory agencies. All of those in the audience here have an opportunity to participate in NCLA's work by getting involved in your local Chamber of Commerce. You've heard from all of our chamber leaders today, and we are really grateful for their leadership, but we can't do our work without you. So consider this sort of a personal call to to action. We'd love to have you involved in these conversations. We would love to have you join our fight to stabilize and protect the business environment in Colorado.